1, 2, 3. Alright, hello everybody. So, welcome to my server that has, I guess, immersive vehicles on it. And yeah, we're going to be doing a little bit of a Vulcan, I guess, tutorial on how to fly the thing. Or in general, how to fly like a lot of the airplanes in this mod. It's a bit finicky, so let's get through it. As you can see though, fuel level is empty. I'm using a creative engine, so I won't need any fuel for today. But you definitely want to make sure that one of the first things you do when you get in these things is that you make sure you have fuel, because not enough fuel and you'll crash, and not fun. So let's make sure our parking brake is set. Can't really do that anymore. You used to be able to, but first I'll teach you how to pull up the controls. So if you hit P on the keyboard, it brings this menu up. You change the config, I guess, whatever, but in controls here you can do car, boat, and aircraft keyboard. So these are your controls. So our mod key will be right shift, our camera lock is right control, blah blah blah. So pretty much this is what you control the airplane in the air with. Throttle is I and K, and then notice that J and L are your rudder, so that's how you steer on the ground as well. Panel is U, and then brake is B. Flaps up, flaps down. So I'll be using these keys throughout. So yeah, okay, so so let's get started. So pretty much you want to make sure your parking brake is set, and then we want to verify our fuel quantity, and our fuel quantity is good for this trip. Battery charge is down here. You can also pull this up by holding down right shift and hitting right control. Brings up this menu. Doing that again makes it disappear, and again brings out those three, which is what we'll want, because when you go with F5 to the outside mode, those stay out there with you. So want to make sure you have battery, because starting the actual airplane requires battery, and we don't have an APU or ground power unit, so we'll want to monitor that. So okay, now it looks like we're ready to go. So I'll go in the F5 view here and zoom out a bit so we can see what's going on. So we'll make sure that our flight controls, they move, and as you can see, they're not overly responsive. So we have ailerons are good, and then our elevator goes up and down, nice. And then we have rudder. Alright, cool. So going back in the flight deck here, we can worry about firing up the airplane. So now what you do is you just come over here, you hit the mag, and then you hold the start. You can see the plane torques. Oh, we don't have the parking brake on, so shift B. That's how you know, I guess, because there's no way to tell anymore. But yeah, the plane slightly torques to the side with the engine that's not on, so let's go ahead and fire that one up. Okay, nice. So these two things stay like this throughout the flight. To kill the engine, you just kill the magneto. So now what we want to do is we want to get around 3 notches of flaps set for our departure here. So we'll hit H 3 times, and that gives us flaps, which is what's coming down there on the wing. Helps gain more lift at lower speeds and helps you stay more stable, and that's what we want, because we don't want to fly into buildings like that, which we worked very hard to build and don't want to destroy. So cool. Alright, we have flaps set, we have our engines are on. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hit reverse thrust. You're going to get a horn, and then in the outside view I'm going to throttle up and release my parking brake. And then this is our, I guess, quote-unquote pushback. power. You know what? We'll take that. So we hit U again, and we'll turn the reverse thrust to forward. So when I put down the flaps by 3 increments, I usually also put the pitch trim by 1 increment for each flap increment. So in this case, I'll do about 3, just because. Here, we'll put the parking brake on, just because then it doesn't make the plane want to kick up as much. Honestly, you can do about 4 or 5 even of these clicks. All that causes is the back here, our rudder, to deflect downwards, and it won't let your plane get in a crazy pitch up situation. So I know it's day, but it's duty. Taxi light is on. Okay, we'll release the parking brake and we'll throttle up a bit and taxi over. So it's a quick taxi here at the, I guess, no name airport. I don't really have a name for it, but again, these taxiways are slightly small. They have improved the turning radius of the airplanes, but it's nowhere like meant for these. I think mine are a bit small. I might have to remake them, but oh well. Alright, cool. So we're lined up on the runway. I'll hit the parking brake again just so we're here. Okay. So we want to turn our landing lights on and our strobe light on once we're on the active. So now what we want to do is notice down here, our maximum RPM, I believe, for this engine is 2,900 RPM, and we don't want to hit that. We want to have a safe RPM of maximum of 27, which I doubt we'll hit. Anywhere from 23 to 25 is fine on takeoff, and then after that we kind of just reduce to 20,000 in cruise, and then again on landing we want to be within that 20 to 21,000 range, I find is the best. So anyway, we have 3 flaps of, or 3 notches of flap, and just to show you, you don't have to be that precise, I'll just throttle up maximum outside mode here, holding down I until I have floored it. As you can see here, my RPM gauge is full, and the plane's gonna bounce like this because you've pitched, or you've trimmed the pitch down, and there we go. It's taking off on its own because we've hit our rotation speed, and it climbs up like that. So it's pitching up a bit too much for my liking, so I'm just gonna pitch trim it down a bit. See, that just arrests that climb. It's not, you don't want to have it overly pitched down, obviously, but it's not the worst case scenario in the world to have a plane that tends to, well, in this game at least, want to kind of go slightly down then up. You'll see why maybe in the lag that happens. I am playing on a server, so I will turn off that landing light because it is a bit absurd. And I'm not going to put any of my flaps up. If you were just to go flying somewhere now, I mean, yeah, I guess we can. So we'll clean up our flaps, hitting Y. They're completely up now, and as you can see at this RPM, my airplane is actually pitched, trimmed pretty well. I'll trim it upwards once, but when you have your instruments, when you're setting those up in the airplane, these 3 main ones are the only ones that show up in your exterior view. So it's beneficial to have these 3, I'd say, just so you have an orientation of what your wings are doing. Obviously, a speedometer, I guess, in this case, shows you your indicated airspeed, and then that's just so you don't stall and die. And then you want to have an altitude, because I find that approaches are much easier to orchestrate with altitude increments associated with certain points, which is what I'm getting to now. I'll switch into journey map, and I recommend everybody has journey map, because what I do is I put 1 waypoint on the threshold of the runway, and then 1 waypoint slightly on short final. I'd say like maybe that would be like half a mile out. And what that does is, when you're flying a distance away from the airport, if you line those 2 lines up in, I guess, a straight line, where the red one's covering the blue one, as you'll see here, that means you're in line with the runway at that point. And then when you cross over, now you see you're not in line with the runway. And as you can see, if you mouse over, you can actually see a distance to the runway. So this is super helpful in the case of landing from this side, but also landing from the opposite end, just like in real life. It's kind of like a shit ILS, just in Minecraft. So, okay, we'll try landing here. So, we are obviously not set up. We're kind of on the, I guess this would be like parallel to the runway. If we look here, the runway is down here. So we're gonna go ahead and give it 3 notches of flaps. So I'm gonna hit H 3 times, and those flaps are gonna come down a bit. So I'm gonna actually reduce my RPM a bit with K and drop that airspeed into the green. Okay, so now we know we're flying parallel, and we're gonna want to turn and land, obviously. So let's go ahead and, okay, so see this is, it's not as bad today, but you see how my plane stops there, like there, kinda. This is what I'm talking about, the lag. Whatever movements you still do are affecting the airplane, but just because it's not moving forward, it looks like nothing's happening. So make sure you don't overly correct in those situations, or else the thing will freak out once everything catches up, and you'll have your, you know, a dead airplane. Well, dead airplane. You'll be dead, and then the airplane will be dead too, obviously. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and give myself full flaps now by hitting H multiple times, and I'm going to reduce my throttle. As you can see there, it's between 20 and 23,000. I'm going to reduce that until it's roughly 20 to 22,000. And then I'm annoyed with this pitch, so I'm just going to trim the airplane. Again, trimming your airplane in this game is huge. Okay, so as you can see, the base of the runway is 900 meters from this end, but that is the opposite base of the runway. So we're going to set ourselves up for a little landing here. We'll throw on the landing light because it is night, and why not? Cool light, I like it. Okay, we got full flaps, we're reducing speed slightly, and now we're going to use our made up kind of makeshift ILS to align, and we don't want to break below 100 blocks, which is that altimeter there. It's in hundreds, so right now we're at 150 blocks roughly, and we don't want to go below 100. So there's that lag that I'm talking about. Don't panic, just kind of let your plane do its thing, because if you panic, you will end up in those trees faster than you don't know anything. Trust me, I've done it plenty of times, and it's sad. Okay, so here we come down, and we have found our visual cues for the runway, which is this set of lights I have to guide you in. So again, nice simple movements, and you're not going to dump the throttle at any point. These planes, you want to fly them into the ground. So now that we're set up here on short final, I'm going to keep reducing my throttle until, oh, see that lag right there will get you, but you just let it go. It's gonna fast forward a bit. Everything just gotta kind of catch up. There we go. It's fine. So I'm reducing. Now I have 0 thrust in, or throttle in, and I'm going to just simply worry about the flare, which, oh, I ballooned it. And this airplane flies really slow at the end, so there we go, we're down. No need for reverse thrust, no need to panic. You're not going that fast. It's all about the approach. So we're actually going to take off again. As you can see, I'm using my 2 journey map icons there to help me line myself up, or you could be using the physical map itself or whatnot, but it's just easier for me to do this, I think. So we're 1.4 kilometers out. I'm going to try to turn on to final here. I'm going to reduce my RPMs slightly to slow my airspeed. Okay. Again, I don't want to overcorrect when I feel like the game is slightly allowing the plane to catch up. I'm flying a plane in Minecraft after all, so yeah, there it is. It'll get you. If you overcorrect, it'll get you, I promise. I don't want it to get you, that's what I'm telling you. Alright, so those look pretty in line together for me. I'm pretty happy with that. Again, you can just watch your visual cues that you have set up, or you can watch your altimeter. As you can see, I'm descending down to 100 feet or blocks roughly. I want to stay at 100 So right here I'm pretty much in perfectly level flight almost. It's slightly, my speed was getting lost there, but again, I don't want to get below that 100 blocks just because those poles are at around 90. So I can give myself a little bit more throttle if I feel like I'm sinking. It's all about just a healthy glide slope. So there we go, we have our visual cue out the window. We want to keep it at 100 over the first marker. That's what my minimums are for this runway. There we go, we're over the first marker pretty much, and there she goes. So now we can begin to come down on our glide path here and reduce our engine throttle. Nice. Reduce and keep flying the airplane until you get to the runway. Don't let it stall out in the last bits, but you're pretty much home free at this point. I'll reduce the throttle completely. And you're controlling with J and L. And boom, we've landed. No use of brakes, no nothing. I let the airplane simply roll out because there's no need for brakes. I'll clean up the flaps. Very cool mod. Yeah, if you'd like me to do more tutorials on this mod potentially, because it can be kind of confusing. Put the parking brake on. Nice. It can be kind of confusing in that sense. So, but yeah, clean it up. Put the parking brake on. Whoop. In the menu. Oh, see that? I didn't even put away my tools. So it just proves to you that it can be a reliable form of transportation in this game. But anyways, I appreciate you guys checking this out, and yeah, I'll guess catch you next time. Thanks for watching.